So I have another in our continuing series on wild teas. This one is very commonly found, enjoyed by most people, and that is, of course, wintergreen. If you're interested in learning more about wintergreen and how to make wintergreen tea, stay tuned. So again, the reason for making this series on wild teas is because I believe learning how to forage for plants that you can make wild teas while out in the woods provides a gateway for learning how to do foraging in general. The benefit of being able to make wild teas or identify teas or things you can make wild tea is, of course, you get some immediate gratification. It's not something you have to process and turn into a powder or a flour or anything else or do any kind of extraction process. All you need is some hot water for the most part. And the other reason is, of course, a lot of these materials that we use for making wild teas are also medicinally valuable. So, wintergreen. Let's start with identifying wintergreen. It's a very easy plant to identify and actually very easy to find in the woods for the most part. So why don't I show you? Let's go out into the woods and find some wintergreen tea. Wintergreen. I'll give you a close-up in a second, but I'm looking at a small plant, small oval-shaped leaves, usually a minimum of 4 or 5, although a lot of these have 3. There's 4 or 5 on a lot of them. Little oval-shaped leaves. A mixture of some dark green ones and some light green ones. The darker ones could still be from this year, they may be from last year. And wintergreen gains its name from the fact that it will remain green all winter long, and it's accessible to you under the snow, or if the snow is very thin, you'll be able to find wintergreen on the forest floor. And that's nice because it can be added to just about any tea that you're making and give a nice mint flavor. So let's put one here. I'll give you a close-up. So wintergreen. You can see it's a shiny, waxy leaf. The underside is a little paler. Short brown stem. The leaves are about 3/4 of an inch to an inch long in this case. And yes, there are a few plants that look like it along the forest floor, but there are none that smell like it. So if you think you have wintergreen, pull a leaf off, break it up in your fingers, and you'll find it's fairly stiff. And then smell it. No mistake in the wintergreen. You probably have toothpaste at home or have had toothpaste at one time or another with that flavor. No mistake in wintergreen. So it's a very common plant, at least here in Nova Scotia, and I think most of northeastern North America has wintergreen. I'm going to harvest some of the wintergreen here. The older ones tend to be a little stronger in flavor, and I'll take those along with me, and we'll talk about them more a little later. Okay, now that we know how to identify wintergreen, let's talk about how we can make a cup of tea from it. So for me, when I am out in the woods, what I'll do is I'll bring my pot of water to a boil. I'll take about 10 to 15 leaves, depending on how strong a cup of tea or how large a cup of tea I want. I'll take the water off a boil and put the leaves in it, cover it, and just set it aside. I might place it near the fire to keep it warm, especially during the winter time, but I don't want the water to keep on boiling because that will just ruin any of the medicinal value you might find in the leaves. So after 10 or 15 minutes, maybe I'll strain the leaves out, maybe I won't, but for the most part it's ready to go. I will tell you, the longer you leave the leaves in the water, the stronger the cup of tea it will make. It's not an especially strong wintergreen flavor, so the more leaves or the longer you leave them in the water, the better off, depending on, of course, what you want. So wintergreen tea has some real medicinal value for you in the woods. The active ingredient in wintergreen tea is actually very similar to the active ingredient in aspirin. So it can act as a minor or mild pain reliever. It can certainly help with headaches if that's an issue for you. That's not usually the reason I make wintergreen tea. I just enjoy the taste. So one of the other nice things about wintergreen is, of course, it is available all year round, hence the name, wintergreen. You will be able to find it in the winter as long as the snow's not too deep, or you can get down to the ground level. You're likely to find wintergreen in the forest where we saw it in the earlier video. It's still good to use. Now you might find that when you dig it up out of the snow, or during the winter months if there's no snow on the ground, it might have a slightly different color. So the wintergreen I picked just yesterday has a nice, bright, waxy green color, and the leaves look very healthy. And that's a good wintergreen plant. You can see how tall it is. It's about 5 inches tall. However, I did find that some that were starting to change color, and this is indicative of the cooler weather that's starting to come here in Halifax, and quite often that's what you'll see in wintergreen during the wintertime. It has a nice bright maroon, maybe a little touch of green here and there. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Still just as good, still just as flavorful. So if you find it looking like that, You just want to make sure that it is wintergreen. The easiest way to do that, of course, is to take a leaf, crush it up, and smell it, and that wintergreen flavor will come through nice and strong. So also, wintergreen. Wintergreen has also been known as, well, historically, it's been known as teaberry, and it has a number of other names. But the reason it got the name teaberry, like the sweet fern and like the Labrador tea, this is one of those alternative teas that the early Americans used during the American Revolution when they had banned the import of British teas because of the taxes. Also again used during the Depression. Still used today as a great tea substitute. One of the things I like about wintergreen is I will often add it to one of the others. I'll add it to sweet fern, I'll add it to the Labrador tea, I'll add it to just about any other tea, and I have a few other teas I'll share with you over time. So wintergreen, you know, one of the few things I might say is I would caution you, as you should with all wild plants before you consume it, to do your research, check in multiple resources, be sure what you have. Then when you go to try it for the very first time, just take a small amount and see how your body's going to react to it. Some people are allergic to aspirin, and the active ingredient here is very similar to the active ingredient in aspirin. So you don't want to take too much the first time before you know how you're going to react to it. However, most people find this very easy to take, very easy on the stomach. In fact, this is one of those things that can make an upset stomach feel better. It can also freshen your breath if that's important to you while you're in the woods. All right, let's close up with a few thoughts. Okay, so wintergreen tea. An excellent, easy to find, easy to identify, easy to prepare tea that really makes an enjoyable cup of tea while you're out in the woods. Try combine it with some of the others we talked about, even some of the evergreen needles that you'll find all about you. Available all year round, has medicinal value. Yeah, this is definitely one to add to your must-do list. Now, I have a few more teas I'm going to share with you in future videos. So if you found this interesting, you may want to subscribe to make sure you don't miss the future videos. But in the meantime, get out and explore. Take that path less traveled. It will make all the difference. Bye for now.